Anti-war protesters have shut down 3 Israeli arms factories across Britain on the first anniversary of Israel's bloody aggression on Gaza. Demonstrators picketed plans of Israel's biggest arms manufacturer, Elbit Systems, in Shenstone, Kent, and Tamworth. The protesters formed a human chain in Shenstone in defiance of a police ban. Security forces reportedly arrested several while resorting to force to remove the protesters. Production was also halted in the Tamworth and Kent plants after activists climbed on the roofs of both factories. The activists accused the company of complicity in Israel's war crimes against Palestinians in Gaza. They also called on the British government to end its arms trade with Israel. A study found last week that London approved over $6 million worth of arms exports to Israel within days of the Israeli assault on Gaza. According to the UN, Israel killed over 2,200 civilians, including over 500 children.
The idyllic village of Shenstone, quiet, scenic, and home to this Israeli drone factory. Last year, during Israel's war on Gaza, protesters climbed the roof of the Elbit factory and shut it down. A year on, and they're back, and they've shut it down again.
You wouldn't think that there was a factory of death round the corner, but that's why these places are chosen. I think that a lot of villagers will be horrified to know what is being made in that factory and where it's going and how it's being used against civilian populations. Stop giving them licenses. Stop allowing factories of death to operate in Britain, and stop making drones. They're killing innocent women and children. Stop it now.
Protesters chained themselves together and blocked off the entire road leading to the factory.
These factories supply drone components to the Israeli military, and they're responsible for massacre after massacre in Gaza with impunity. The international community does nothing to protect innocent Palestinians.
For some protesters, the tragedy is very close to home.
And I lost during the last attack 9 members of my family, and plus one of them was a pregnant woman. 5 children, the youngest was Lujain, 4 years old. They were killed, all of them, by 3 attacks by a drone. 3:45 in the morning when they were sleeping.
Just hours after demonstrators gathered, the factory's private security tried to hand protesters a blanket court injunction, and police then started forcibly removing protesters. At least 8 arrests have been made. Nargis Moballeri, Press TV, Shenstone.
Let's see what Jim Brand thinks. He's from Stop the War Coalition, joins us from London. Jim Brand, these factories are some of the very same factories that produces these drones that actually were used in Israel's war against Gaza. There were 3 of them. Do you think that the UK should allow this to happen, given the fact that it's on their soil, in terms of it being operational, that is?
No, but I think this shows more than it's not a simple accident that these factories are in Britain, because there is a strategic agreement between Britain and the government of Israel in general, and Elbit Systems in particular, to transfer drone technology to Britain, because the Israelis are masters of armed drone technology, and Britain wants a piece of the action. And it is completely unacceptable that Britain gives this special place to Israeli drone manufacture, as compared to any other country in Europe, for example. It's clearly a political decision.
Well, what about the fact, as you mentioned, there obviously are arms trade deals that occur between the UK and Israel, and that comes along with protests time and again. And we understand in our report here that the UK actually helped Israel with over $6 million worth of arms exports within days of the Israeli assault on Gaza. I mean, doesn't that reflect poorly on UK, to say the least?
Oh, absolutely. But I think if you go back to last summer, you had the 4 weeks or 5 weeks of the Israeli assault. And basically for the first 4 weeks of the Israeli assault on Gaza, the British government gave a very clear green light And it was only in the 5th week that they decided that, on balance, the damage that was being done to Israel directly and by implication to the British government in the eyes of world public opinion, British government started to make some noises that perhaps the Israelis were going too far, etc. But otherwise, the British government's support for the assault on Gaza was very clear and very public. And so it's really no surprise to discover that they approved arms exports following the assault, because that is the relationship of the British government to Israel and to the occupation.
Very well, thank you very much for that. Jim Brand from Stop the War Coalition from London.